Hi, I'm Dave, and welcome to I'm Glad I Heard That. You're watching us on YouTube, so I'm going to ask that you would take a minute and you would smash that like button, and if you could also click on or subscribe. The long form of this conversation will be hosted on the podcast platforms such as Apple, Spotify, those things. Just search for I'm Glad I Heard That, and you'll get to hear a little bit more about my conversation with Brian Fullerton. Brian, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave. This is great.
So I'm a little bit of a fanboy right now because this has been a long time process. One of the things that I started about a year ago is I wanted to start a grass cutting company, something that will eventually my daughters will be able to participate in and possibly run, depending on their interest and passion and so forth. And so one of the things that happened is while I'm on a build in Mexico, building a home for a family, I was talking with one of the missionaries I'm working with, and he said, "Oh, you should talk to Scotty Westfall over there because he's been cutting grass for 10 years on the side too." So started talking with Scotty, and I say, "Hey, Scotty, blah, blah, can I ask you some questions about equipment and so forth?" He goes, "Yeah, tonight once we get back to the center, let's plan this out." And I'm like, "Great." And he says to me in that conversation, he goes, "When you get home, subscribe to Brian's Lawn Maintenance on YouTube. And this guy, he'll teach you everything about running a lawn care business." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I get home and I go to your channel and go, "Oh my gosh, Brian has 50,000 people subscribed teaching him." And all he's doing is talking lawn care, equipment, different things like that. And so I instantly subscribed and I jumped into the rabbit hole. Now, what I didn't tell you is that many nights I fell asleep to the sound of your voice watching YouTube videos in bed about proper ways to stripe a lawn and how to pick a good blower and all these different things. And so then over time I started to hear the idea that your faith was coming through in your different things you talked about. And so I reached out to you and said, "Would you be willing to come on our podcast to talk about it?" And so it's kind of how we got here today. So welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is a really cool opportunity. It's also nice to know that I have grown men watching the channel, not just 9-year-old kids, which I feel like a lot of my content might be for, but we just kind of bake that in there.
Yep,
so this is cool.
Yeah. No, I am a 42-year-old child, so that's great. And so one of the things I would like to ask to kind of get us started is, first of all, how did you get your start in the lawn care industry? What's your backstory?
Yeah, I mean, short story long, just like a lot of folks, when you're a young kid, 9, 10, 12 years old, you want to make some money and, whether it's go buy Subway sandwiches or you just want to buy some fireworks for the upcoming 4th of July, when you're 10, 12 years old, you want to make a couple bucks. So it really goes that far back to where I was just a neighborhood kid with a push mower mowing the neighbors across the street and just making $10 or $12 for a lawn care cut. Now I grew up in a subdivision of mobile home, trailer park, and so my route density was pretty good. We had the neighbor across the street, 3 neighbors down around the house, so it was pretty normal for a kid to just push a mower 100 feet down the road and have another customer. But literally, that's all I did. I took my accounts, I took all that money, I bought Subway sandwiches, the ice cream guy would come around. I was 10, 12 years old. It's ridiculous now, but I was always kind of like that hustler / entrepreneur, right?
Yep.
Fast forward, I turned 16, and somebody in my family, and we're still trying to figure out who it was, but they said, "You got to go get a big boy job. Cutting grass is something to do that's fun when you're a kid, but it's not a real career. It's not a real business. Yeah. It's not something you're going to be able to take care of a family with." And I was 16 getting this advice, and I said, "Well, what do I know?" So the closest business, if you did a little proximity radius from where I lived, was a Little Caesars franchise. So the good old hot and ready $5 pizzas, right? God bless Little Caesars. So I worked there as a crew member for about a year, became a shift manager, became a co-manager, and a year later became a store manager. So I was 19 years old, and I was running my own little pizza shop. And again, I was 19 with a crew full of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. So it was pandemonium. It was a lot of fun. We had so many lessons learned, right? What happened was I actually got laid off from that job. There's some corporate politics that happened in there, and we don't have to get into that. And then I was like, well, I'm a manager now, right? I'm not rank and file, right? So I was a manager. This is my thinking, and you guys can laugh along with us. But I went to careerbuilder.com.
Okay.
And I just typed in manager, and so I started getting spit out all these different manager jobs, right? And the first one that came to the top of the list was route manager for True Green Chemelon, so the fertilizer company.
Yep.
And so I said, well, I can manage a bunch of people fertilizing, a bunch of accounts, right? So I go in there, do this whole interview, and all I remember hearing from the interview was, we start at $11.50 an hour. And so I said, well, I need a job. I'm your guy. So the guy says, great, we'll see you here tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., and we'll get you in a truck, and we'll teach you how to start spraying lawns. And my world went like this, because I thought I was going to be managing people, all this stuff. No, a route manager meant you're in the tanker truck spraying lawns. So it was a very abrupt change, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, really enjoyed working for True Green for about a year and a half. But here's the, I think the question you're really looking for is, when did it all change? Well, I was already frustrated. I was frustrated working at True Green. I was frustrated working for somebody else. I just knew it wasn't for me. Like my mom's an employee for a lot of different companies. She's a great employee. For me, I'm that free-spirited. I twitch. I'm very animated, if you guys can't tell. I like to talk with my hands. So I needed some freedom. So I said, well, what can I do to get out of this job? And I forget the day, but the short story long is I'm spraying lawns. It's 85 degrees out. It's a Michigan summer day, beautiful July day. And I'm in full PPE. So I have rubber boots, long pants, long sleeve shirt, my little True Green hat. I'm like a model employee. But I'm in this tanker truck that has no air conditioning and chemicals all over the place. The smell, the odors, it was just disgusting, honestly. And so as I'm like having this quarter life crisis at 20 years old going, what am I doing here? Across the street pulls up this lawn care rig. And these two young guys walk out, and I call this my Baywatch moment. And these two young guys jump out, and they're in t-shirts, gym shorts, tennis shoes, and they were, they had, their earpods in back in the day, whatever they were, and they're cutting grass, making $20-$30, living the dream. They're all tan, they're having a great time, drinking water and Gatorade, and I'm just like life slowed down. One of those moments, right? And I'm like, they're having fun. I perceive they're making money. I cut grass as a kid, and that was like this whole ultimatum. I said, you know what? I'm going all in to cut grass. I'm going to start a lawn care business. I did it as a kid. How much more different can it be as an adult?
Now, one of the things I keep on hearing you say is this idea of hustle. When you were a little kid, how did that energy get expressed?
If you go back to like my yearbook, back when they used to give all the, you know what I'm talking
People
about.
used to sign things, yeah.
Yeah, a book, it's a paper, it's part of the internet, you print off, you put it in a binder. Just having some fun for my younger people. But yeah, so in the yearbook, it was, I guarantee you if I look back on there, I was voted most likely to not succeed. Because I was sleeping. I was so bored with high school. I was so bored with school in general. You ever hear Dave back in the day, when am I ever going to use this?
Right.
I kind of realized at 16, 17, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a business owner. I was into the nicer things because I grew up so poor. So you got to realize for me, a kid that grew up with nothing, I didn't have a pair of shoes that didn't have a hole in them until I was 20 years old. So I was like, I got to change this. I want to change this. I had no clue how to change it, but I knew that I didn't want to grow up or have my kids grow up the same way I did. And it's not an indictment on my parents. No. They did the best they could. Single mom, 3 kids. She was working her butt off. Bless her heart, right? And that's why I work so hard now, is not only take care of my wife, but my mom in the later part of her life.
And so, and again, since you're sharing so much of your life over the YouTube and different things like that, I watch you now. You're sitting in this position that your hard work's paying off. You're experiencing success, and you're doing good things with it. Okay, so a kid who comes from nothing, you sit here now, and you have you've made it. Okay, so for most people, I'm good, right? That would be where it's say I'm accomplishing my goals. I'm going to keep working my plan. You make this interesting decision to say, I'm going to start to share this with other people on how to get here. And I was listening to you again. You've talked me to sleep, and while I'm driving my zero turn, I'm listening to you and different things like that.
Sure.
And one of the things you said is that no one left you a trail of crumbs to the path of success.
Right.
Something along those lines. No one really kind of sat you down until probably a little later on with the Bedell and those people who kind of help show you some ways.
Absolutely.
But you sit here and you're deciding, you're like, hey, I figured out a couple of paths. Now I'm going to give that to whoever wants, right? Not even just to people I like, right? Just to whoever clicks here and listens to that. Why did you decide to go that road?
To answer your question, it's as simple as what you just said. The Brian's Lawn Maintenance, or the Brian Fullerton, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, back in 07, 08, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid. My worldview was the tip of a pinhead that if I would have inserted into a tennis ball, I didn't have any clue, any perspective. My worldview, how much worldview can you have as an 18, 19-year-old poor kid living in a trailer? I didn't have anybody in our family making six figures. I knew no wealthy business owners. I knew no wealthy entrepreneurs. That's one side of it. The other side of it is you go into an industry, like you said, that's very competitive. That if you and I have a conversation, like, hey, what do you charge for, this XYZ service? And if I was working in your same 20-mile radius, what do you think the reality of you giving me that answer is?
Right.
Very slim. So it was that's what we used to say, like, throw mud up against the wall and sees what sticks. That was my business career for 10 years. And so to fast forward 10 years in, I realized, like, dude, things have got to change. And for things to change externally, we've all heard before, they have to change internally. The word I often use to describe it is metamorphosis, because when a caterpillar goes into the cocoon and it comes out a butterfly, there's very little, if any, of the actual physiological, like, DNA that's still left in the butterfly.
Yeah, the chrysalis that it becomes,
It's literally metamorphosis. So, like, for who I am just 5 years ago to who I am right now, saying the things I'm saying, the way I talk and how I think is not even Brian Fullerton 5 years ago. And that was the precursor to getting on YouTube. I said, well, I'm going to go through this whole transformative process. I've got some things figured out. We got a decent little business, but I need to grow. And I said, if I'm going to put in this second win, I want to do it with everybody. Why? I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, there was no, like, God, giving this, voice, the audible voice of the Lord, it wasn't anything like that. It was, I had bought my wife a camera, a DSLR camera, like this video is being shot on, just a nice camera. And my wife wanted to do beauty vlogging and, like, hair and makeup. And we always joke now, Dave, because if she would have done that, then we probably would be millionaires, because that niche is huge, right? Like, lawn care is
if you would have just let her pursue that a little bit more.
I was like, hey, go get them. Yeah. So she, God bless her, but she had, like, stage fright, and putting yourself out there on the internet, talking, conveying a thought, it's a lot harder than people realize. So I give YouTubers a lot of credit.
Let me ask you this, because so you make this decision that I'm going to kind of reboot, right? And I'm going to take whoever wants to watch along with it.
Yep.
You could have just shown the good parts, right? But you made the decision to say, I'm going to show you, like, the things I've messed up, the things I did that. Why'd you decide to even not only be generous and say, hey, I'm going to show you how I'm doing this, but, like, I'll also tell you where I screw up, because that's really where a lot of people learn, right? And so
that right there is probably the answer. You don't. I always joke, and we've heard it from many successful people. You don't learn when you win. You learn when you fail. Well, you had to realize my career at this point. It was 10 years of not exactly winning.
Right.
So
a long list of.
We had a couple wins along the way, but the reality was, if we had 10 years of losing, we had 10 years of learning. And so, same thing, to go full circle to what you were asking earlier, why did we start this with leaving those breadcrumbs? It was for the breadcrumbs of Brian Fullerton 10 years ago. So I want to start showing what I've done wrong, maybe not so much what I've done right. And I didn't, like, go into it, that was my MO. I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to be the guru. I was like, hey, my name's Brian, I run a lawn care business. I'm just going to show some stuff up on the internet that I have. And I wasn't totally aware either of who I was or how big my business was or how inadequate it was, to be totally honest with you. Because I didn't know. I thought there was 1 or 2 lawnmower brands out there, which is what I was exposed to. I didn't know there was 24 lawnmower brands. So by putting myself out there, I was subject to the opinions of the opinions of everyone, right? And so 2 things happened. I was able to help out people, and that was kind of my MO. Hey, I'm gonna help you guys get to a 50 grand a year business. What's the best trimmer? What's the best blower? How to sling mulch? All these things that we do in our industry day to day. What I didn't know over the last 4 or 5 years is how influential the community, I call it, of the lawn care professionals, this industry, would be in influencing me. See, here's the reality is that when you post a video and it gets 1,000 views and 20 comments, and you say, well, hey, we're mowing grass this way, or we're doing this thing this way, and somebody says, there's 10 comments, right? And 4 of them are, hey, we love you, great job. 4 of them are, hey, that's cool, man, go get them. And then 2 say, hey, why did you do it this way? And one other one says, well, what we do is this instead. And I said, oh, interesting. I've never thought about that, because my worldview was so microscopic. So I got a couple pieces of feedback, right? And we changed a little thing. And then we did another video, and it got 1,500 views because the channel's growing, right? And we would get 20 comments, and we would get 17 comments saying, hey, awesome channel, love the content. And 2 would say, well, why are you doing it this way? And why are you doing it that way?
Okay.
And of course, you'd have the one out there, there's a critic saying, why are you giving this info away? Or what's going on, right? But you got to extrapolate this out, right? This is a 5-year story here. 700 videos, 25 million channel views. So there's a lot of influence, a lot of feedback coming in. So here's my proposition. If you were me that didn't have a clue and you had all this feedback coming in, what would you do? Listen to it, study it, measure it, and incorporate it.
And it speaks to a little bit of a humility side that you're willing to say, all right, I'll hear someone out, right? Like that's, well, that's a big deal because,
well, when you're 19 and broke as a joke, or 27 broke in a joke, clearly I didn't have it all figured out. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't going to let this was just me, and I'm not a hero, but I just was not going to let my ego get in the way of taking care of my family. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, like boom goes the dynamite, right? That idea, like I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of me taking care of my family.
Amen.
You think about all the applications for that statement, right? Like not even in a business world, but like let's talk about relationships. Let's talk about like, so maybe I'll listen to my wife when she starts to say, hey, I don't like where this is going, right?
Well,
like,
that was the catalyst for me. When I started listening to my wife, everything changed.
Really?
That's it. Well, do you concur, Dave?
Oh, yeah. yeah, absolutely, honey.
Yeah. Hey, blink if you're in trouble.
Yeah. And so, and when I was listening to you and I start to hear these ideas of, belief, faith, and so forth come through, one of the things that we always talk about here, especially at our church, is different things like God works through whatever you do, right? So I have a good friend, patent attorney, right? God works through that, right?
Yeah.
We have pastors, we have people who are construction workers. I just think about a couple of the construction workers that I've gotten to work with in my life, and like all the people who they've blessed just by using that skill,
Amen.
right? Like West Virginia, Mexico, here, like all these things that they've created life change. And so you have your faith, and how do you see that being used in what you do in your vocation and your job?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, the simple answer is how we've done it with my wife and I. I call it lifestyle ministry, right? I like being a successful businessman, and then people who ask the right questions say, why is that person successful, right? And by the way, I don't profess to be successful. I'm definitely not a finished product, but we're on that journey. But when you look at somebody, you can say, well, they're wealthy and they're making money, they're a successful businessman. But you got to back up a question. You got to take that Google Maps and pinch it and zoom out and say, why are they successful? What's going on behind the scenes, right? And by the way, I love what you said a second ago is like the construction worker can be being able to spread their faith just as much as the pastor can. Mm-hmm. In fact, potentially even more. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I've loved people saying that. I heard a saying once that God doesn't God doesn't call the equipped; He equips the called. Because I said I'm just a lawn care guy. Like I'm not a pastor. But again, if God's going to put people in my path that I'm supposed to talk to and give me a platform to pour into people, so that's where you kind of bake this stuff in. That's what I like to do, right? I love talking about giving because to me, I think something that's been the biggest catalyst of our success and growth in the last few years is our generosity. First, when I first became a baby Christian, 12107, I was like, hey, we got to start tithing now. This guy that I was working with, and he goes, he led me to Christ, and he goes, you need to start, it's a suggestion, you could start tithing. Well, what's that? He goes, we got to give 10%. And I was like, 10% of what?
Right.
He goes, your finances. I go, hey, no problem, man, 10% off my net paycheck, I can do that. He goes, maybe try gross. And I said, 10% off the gross? No, Dave, you got to realize, like my finances, we were redlined. So for me to give 10%, I had to do something drastic, like not eat out, maybe change my subscriptions or something like that, get rid of TV, whatever it was.
You didn't have to get rid of Netflix, did you?
Well, they wasn't even around back then. Remember, I'm ancient.
No, they were mailing DVDs then.
Well, is that right? Yeah, I went from Blockbuster from 4 rentals a month to 3.
Oh, okay. Well, you're a giver.
Well, yeah, right. Actually, what happened is I took the movies back on time, and I got all those late fees back.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That was
yeah, exactly.
If you're over 30, you can relate to that part. But then I also, like you said earlier, I love baking these truths into what we do as well. I can't just, it's a lawn care YouTube channel. We have a lawn care podcast. And I guess I could say, hey, if you want to be successful, start giving 10% of your income. But I can also just say, hey guys, just go out there and do good things and good things will happen.
Okay.
What am I teaching there? I'm teaching sowing and reaping, right? I can say, hey, with a good attitude and this, and this, guys, you can have a better day. And I'm teaching like these Christian truths and beliefs, from my opinion, and I'm baking that into our content. Okay. And by the way, like I also always wonder, maybe that's why we're being blessed. Like maybe we're being blessed because we're on a mission. Maybe we're being blessed because we're being used.
Okay.
Right? That's how I perceive it. So then another part, like people are like, what about the haters and the trolls and the people coming against you? Well, dude, if we're being blessed, think about that. Who are you coming against? I know that's kind of zealot and very out there, but to me, we're just very focused. We're passionate. What we're doing is working. And also, I don't know how to articulate this. Maybe you can help me land this airplane. But for what I also notice is that for me, it's this obedience, this responsibility, this stewardship. Call it fear. I'm being blessed so much where I'm like, I'm not going to miss a tithe check, as we call it. I'm not going to miss a payment. It's not a payment. You guys know what I'm saying. But I'm not going to miss my tithe. I'm not going to miss offering. Look, if you have all this coming in, you got to realize 5 years ago, our take-home income was $40,000, $50,000. This year, it's many multiples of that. So if you come from that to here and you think that you're the one that, made all this stuff happen, sure, I worked hard, but there's no way I worked hard enough to have this multiplier effect to get it to where it is today. So if somebody's multiplying you and somebody's adding increase, and I was struggling to make a tithe payment back then, see, here's the thing, we've all heard this. Like, if you can't make a tithe payment on $40,000, you will not make a tithe payment on $400,000.
Right. Yeah, and just like anything, you can outspend any amount of money you make and so forth. One of the things that, and maybe this will help you about what Joe, one of our pastors, he always points out is, God starts with relationship. Think about Adam and Eve. And then, long down the line, he gave us the 10 Commandments, the rules. God is always interested in a relationship with you and I, and the rules are because he loves us. He doesn't give them to us to punish us. It's like, no, I'm going to give you these things to protect you.
Sure.
And like, part of where you're probably sitting right now is that for some reason, somehow, you, through that time of being humbled and learning, and probably you're repenting and you're trying to let God change your life. What's probably happening during that time is why you're experiencing what you're experiencing right now is because for 15 years, even before what you said, some date of 2007 when you were saved, God's been working on your heart, right? And so like now you're just in this spot where it's like, oh, I see things very differently.
1,000%.
Right.
There's no way we would have been able to take care of the fame, quotations, but the fame, the spotlight, the finances. No, we were not there 4 or 5 years ago. And maybe this is the thing that I would leave with you guys is that no matter where you start, it doesn't have to determine how you finish. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know any other way to say it than like if I can do it, you can do it. That whole story. I mean, I came from zero income, zero influence. So if I can learn in just 4 or 5 years how to start accumulating some of that stuff and to start using it to benefit other people and humanity and watch it get blessed along the way, that's what I want to teach my kids. I don't know the best way to articulate that.
You did a very good job, by the way.
Yeah, I just want to teach my kids that like they're going to realize when they hit 10, 12 years old that they have it pretty good. If things keep on this current trajectory, they're going to have a nice home and the cars, and we're going to have that cushion.
Don't worry, they won't appreciate it.
No, for sure. Yeah. but that's something that I want to teach my kids. I want to teach my kids generational stuff. I want to teach my kids that what mommy and daddy built, that you can take and not only take it, but grow it, multiply it, and do it the right way. Yeah. That's something that's really on my heart because, I don't know, this is just something that for me, it's like, I look at my lineage and I realize like we're in this, honestly, Dave, this negative spiral, and nobody would profess that. And I'm not putting that on anybody. But it's just the reality is like my last name, let's say there's 10 or 12 or 20 generations of my last name. Nobody came with a portfolio. Nobody came with any houses. We didn't have mansions on the New England coast, right? A summer home. We didn't have anything in Lake Michigan. And I'm not just talking about the material trappings, but all of that stuff, nothing got transferred for 800 years to me. I don't even know my grandfather. He passed away when I was young. My dad passed away when I was 16 or 17. So when you look at having to be the first and learn everything, it sucks. It sucks. It's a lot of, You know what it is, Dave, if you want to be honest with you? It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of crying. It's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of tough stuff that you got to deal with, that you got to face these fears. You got to face these demons. You got to face these enemies. You got to overcome a lot of this stuff. And so that's what people don't understand is like the outward is a direct reflection of the inward. And when it takes 10 to 15 years to fix that, I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that my kids know what it takes, because I don't want them to have to go through the same struggles I did. Now, they'll still have to go through struggles,
Right.
but I can teach them thought process to help minimize that learning curve. Maybe they have to deal with the same stupid stuff that we all do as guys. And maybe it takes them a year, 2, 3, 5 years instead of 10 or 15. There's no doubt that they're going to have to go through those same lessons, right? They can't get fit watching somebody else work out, okay? But they're still going to have to go through, but I can minimize some of that stuff. If you're not leaving a legacy and putting that into your kids, that they grow up to be successful, that's my charge. That's what I'm excited about. Yes, I'm excited about fatherhood. Yes, I'm excited about, building this home and all this other fun stuff that we got going on behind the scenes. But I want to raise up that next generation. And it starts with my kids, but it also starts with our YouTube audience.
Well, again, I'm glad I heard that podcast. So if you could subscribe on our YouTube channel and hit the like button. And also, if you do like listen to us on the podcast formats, please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to, and share a positive comment and rate us a 5-star, because that really helps with a lot of our analytics. Brian, thank you so much for the time today. This is great.
Thanks for having me on the show, brother. I appreciate it.
Great.